Were you going to read the amendment?
Only if you really want.
No, I would prefer not to. Community land use and housing planning are important parts of the local planning process. However, these local planning activities should not be part of a federal transportation planning. Typically, housing affordability is determined by comparing the area median income with the median home price for the same area. The language in the bill requires the assessment of an adequate supply of housing in all income levels. These will amount to the recalculation of regional affordable housing goals based on planned transportation projects. I believe the efforts to mandate federal growth management policies at the transportation planning level runs the risk of creating a further imbalance between housing supply and demand by dictating where development of housing and transportation infrastructure can exist. This imbalance could occur based on a specific type and location of housing, putting upward pressure on housing prices and ultimately reducing housing affordability in the region. We all know that transportation planning is sometimes a multi-decade process. Housing markets and prices in certain regions are volatile. Long-range transportation plans and projects should not be held up because of the housing affordability crisis within a specific region of the MPO. In Southern California, the MPO, referred to as SCAG, spans 6 counties. While SCAG is charged under California state law with performing the allocation of regional housing need shares once every 5 years, the availability of affordable housing should not impede the approval of important federal transportation projects. There's a place for housing affordability goals and for land use decisions. The federal transportation planning process is not one of them. The bill's language requires MPOs of large metropolitan areas to assess land use patterns that support a reduction in single-occupant motor vehicle trips. In plain language, this means that MPOs will be pressured to consider transit projects above highway projects, even if a highway project will do a better job of improving mobility, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and improving congestion. For most Southern Californians, transit alone is not a feasible option for their commute. Despite the efforts to push for an increase in transit projects, the fact remains that millions of Southern California commuters will not swap their car keys for a bus pass. Public transportation is not a feasible option for these communities because their jobs, schedules, and family have demands that do not adhere to bus and transit schedules. An increase in transit alone is not enough to address the congestion concerns of Southern California, and I oppose efforts to prioritize transit in major metropolitan areas, to ignore the local reality of Southern California regions, to ignore the transportation of constituents I was elected to represent. Livability is not defined in federal law or in this bill, and in my experience is different from person to person, region to region, culture to culture. America is diverse, and there should not be a national or even a regional standard of what is livable. That should be a personal choice on where someone wants to live, work, and raise their kids. There should not be a federal standard of what is considered livable, nor should federal transportation planning require MPOs to take livability into consideration when determining whether or not to approve a project. The bottom line is that local land use planning and housing goals are an important part of the community planning process. However, it is unnecessary reach to involve these issues in the federal transportation project. I urge my colleagues to support this amendment to ensure transportation planning can remain just transportation planning.